top stories and the weather where you live in the first 8 minutes. 8 News starts now.
New at 11, the country in mourning after the Las Vegas massacre.
The American spirit cannot and will not ever be broken.
Dozens are dead.
It just kept happening and happening. We ran and we ran.
Frightening new information about the shooter, why no one knew what he had planned.
Something incredibly wrong happened to my brother.
Plus, the heroic efforts of doctors in Las Vegas, working around the clock to save lives.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We're following that horrific mass shooting in Las Vegas, where police have now recovered 23 guns from a room at the Mandalay Bay Resort where that shooter opened fire.
Stephen Paddock sent bullets raining down on thousands attending a Jason Aldean concert in Las Vegas last night.
At least 59 people are dead. 527 are hurt. Investigators believe the guns he used were purchased legally. By the time police got into Paddock's hotel room, he'd shot himself. Thousands have gathered at multiple prayer vigils tonight in Las Vegas.
And tonight we're learning new details about the shooter, Stephen Paddock, and the dozens of victims who lost their lives. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has the update.
On the Las Vegas Strip, music blending in with gunshots as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock opens fire on thousands of people at a country music concert. Around 10:08 local time last night, police say Paddock used a tool to break the windows of his hotel room on the 32nd floor so he could take aim at concert goers on the ground. More than 200 rounds fired, hundreds more within minutes. Paddock more than 300 feet above, the packed crowd 1,100 feet away.
Shots fired from Mandalay Bay.
People frantically running, trying to take cover.
We're going to get trampled if we don't go.
Police say they found an arsenal in Paddock's room, a combination of rifles and handguns locked and loaded.
This is an individual who was described as a lone wolf. I don't know how it could have been prevented.
No connection with an international terrorist group.
Authorities say Paddock killed himself in that hotel room. And now we're learning who some of the victims are. There was Dana Gardner, former high school cheerleader Angie Gomez, 28-year-old Afghanistan Navy vet Chris Roybal from Southern California, Hannah Allers, a 35-year-old mother of 3 from Murrieta, California. And 2 Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officers were also hit. The sheriff emotional.
One was critical, but he's stable, and one of my officers was off duty attending the concert and lost his life.
Here in Washington, President Trump offered somber words expressing unity, quoting Bible scriptures just 48 hours after what many felt were some of the most divisive days of his entire presidency. His staff says he plans to visit Las Vegas this Wednesday after a stop in Puerto Rico. Stephanie Ramos, ABC News, Washington.
Police searched Paddock's home outside Las Vegas and found even more weapons, including 18 additional guns, explosives, and electronic devices.
Security experts say getting access to an automatic weapon is an extensive process here in the U.S. Purchased legally, automatic weapons cost $10,000 to $20,000 after a federal background check that can take 6 months to a year. Some suggest tonight that shooter Stephen Paddock could have illegally modified a semi-automatic weapon to achieve the full speed of a fully automatic weapon.
And tonight, the medical community is using the tragedy in Las Vegas to decide how they can prepare if it did happen here.
Local doctors are sharing what's happening in those Las Vegas emergency rooms. 8 News reporter Parker Slaybaugh spoke to a doctor at VCU Medical Center. Parker?
Well, Juan and Christina, Dr. Stephen Miller says despite Las Vegas hospitals being thousands of miles away, what is going on right now inside of those ERs is the same thing that would happen if a mass casualty event happened right here at home.
Within minutes last night of the first gunshots ringing out, emergency crews in the Las Vegas area were filled with wounded and dying victims.
You look for your resources, you see, and you take care of your most acute or sickest patients first.
In this situation, everyone would have a specific job.
You see how many people need blood products, see how many people need to be admitted to the hospital, have to go to the OR.
And of course, staffing is a major concern. Someone will be responsible for bringing in more staff right away, but also managing staff for the long haul.
And then you're also evaluating your staff. So as this progresses, you'll have people that were there treating initially, and then we'll have to go in and those people will have to be replaced. And that all depends on how many people you're treating and how long the event is taking place.
Making sure the medical team is always alert and at their best could mean the difference between life and death.
Having enough stamina and energy level to kind of keep up the treatment and then replace those that need and bring in extra staff as needed.
And if all goes as practiced, lives will be saved because of the dedication to preparing for anything.
We actually have regular training sessions, not only for ourselves, but for our residents to go through and kind of learn the verbiage, everything that needs to happen from a command structure.
Now, VCU Medical Center says since they are also a teaching hospital, they have a great number of residents and teaching nursing staff that would be able to help out if something ever happened here at home. Juan?
Thanks, Parker. The FBI says that Las Vegas shooting has no connection to ISIS, despite the terrorist organization's claim of responsibility. A VCU Homeland Security expert tells 8 News ISIS may be taking credit for the tragedy in an attempt to stay in the news. William Pelfrey also says taking credit for the shooting could be a signal that the group is getting weaker.
There have been significant combat efforts in the Middle East targeting ISIL and targeting their leaders, and some of those have seen success. So it could be that ISIL is struggling to gain attention.
Pelfrey says in the past, ISIS has provided proof it's been connected to an attack, and they have not done that for the shooting in Las Vegas.
A Virginia Beach woman is recovering after she was shot at that concert last night. Allison Crude and her boyfriend Andrew Camp were at the Route 91 Harvest Festival. She was a cardiac ICU nurse at Virginia Beach General before becoming a traveling nurse. Her father says she was shot in the arm and needs surgery.
She could have easily have been one of those numbers, and it gives me an even deeper sense of compassion that we all already feel for the people that have lost a loved one.
Cruz says she was listening to her favorite song when the shots rang out.
Also in Las Vegas, when those attacks occurred, Richmond City Councilman Andreas Addison. Addison was just blocks away from the concert venue at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. He tells us he got an alert on his phone about an active shooter and then heard the chaos begin. After the shooting stopped, Addison said the 24-hour hustle and bustle of Las Vegas also stopped.
It was dead quiet. I mean, you couldn't hear really anybody or anything. And you'd occasionally hear a police car drive by or an ambulance, but, you know, even then it was still really, really just quiet and surreally just kind of eerie, to be honest with you.
Councilman Addison came back to Richmond today.
Once again, here's what we know so far about the Las Vegas tragedy.
At least 59 people have been killed and 527 injured by a gunman who opened fire at a country music festival last night.
That gunman, Stephen Paddock, he's a 64-year-old with no criminal history. Officials say he had no ties to terrorism.
Investigators have recovered 23 guns from his motel room and 19 more at his home outside Las Vegas. This is the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history.
Be sure to stay with 8 News for the very latest on this developing story. We will have continuing coverage on air and online at WRIC.com.
News where you live now. Federal government's ordering the Housing Authority to pay Hopewell residents with claims of discrimination. The settlement clears complaints filed this spring. Langston Park residents accused the local housing authority of discriminating against families with children and folks with disabilities. They say they were forced out of homes and relocated to overcrowded housing in poor conditions. Hopewell housing authorities have now been ordered to pay more than $330,000 to residents whose rights were violated. They'll also have to change policies and procedures to prevent any wrongdoing in the future. That investigation, we should tell you, was carried out by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. You can read more details about this story at WRIC.com.
Henrico police charge a man for a deadly 3-car crash. Police say Larry Monier was driving on 295 and was slow to merge into an exit lane. A tractor trailer hit him from behind, which caused him to cross into the opposite lane and hit a Jeep. He was not hurt, but he is charged with reckless driving. 2 passengers in his car died at the scene.
Still ahead tonight, there have been some improvements, but Puerto Rico is still in full hurricane crisis. We'll show you a town living underwater and how folks where you live are trying to help.
Plus, country music fans across the country coming together after the mass shooting in Las Vegas. Hear how they're reaching out to radio stations here in Virginia. Raquel?
Clear skies and light winds are allowing those temperatures to fall for tonight, but a warm trend on the way may switch things up for this upcoming weekend. I'll tell you what you need to know in your 7-day forecast.
You're watching 8 News at 11. It's the news where you live.
Stay with us. Christina and Raquel and I are back with more in a moment.
Developing now, the phone lines at country music stations are flooded with calls from concerned fans. This after that gunman opened fire at a country concert in Las Vegas last night. Jason Aldean was performing when the gunman opened fire. A radio show host from Lynchburg says today was a harsh reminder. He was on the air answering calls when the Virginia Tech shooting happened back in 2007.
When you have a tragedy like this, whether it's a country music concert or a rock concert or a pop concert, obviously our heart goes out to all the victims, but I think it especially hit home for us as a country music radio station.
Radio show host Bobby Bones also came dangerously close to that massacre in Vegas. He played on the same stage the night before with his band.
A Richmond man in Las Vegas last night said he also witnessed the chaos after that deadly shooting. Chris Staples was in a casino a few blocks away from the scene. He says concert goers ran into his hotel for safety, and not knowing what had happened, he hid behind a cocktail bar. He says tonight he's grateful.
You know, it's weird. Perspective hits you, and you feel all of a sudden you realize how fortunate, lucky you are to have your health and your life, and how quickly it can be taken away at a moment's notice.
Staples says he was in Vegas for business. He returned to Richmond this evening.
The latest night on the growing humanitarian disaster in Puerto Rico. Take a look at this video from Florida. The water won't recede. 80 homes there are submerged. No one is sure if there are any bodies inside those homes. FEMA says it has reached every municipality, but authorities still have not reached all of the people.
We're doing disaster survivor assistance right now. That's like the main mission. That's like boots on the ground running.
FEMA is still trying to figure out how to unclog the drains. Lines at gas stations on the island still stretch for blocks. Police must escort fuel trucks as well. A Virginia diving company is collecting dozens of items to take to Puerto Rico. Lynn Haven Diving Company is a drop-off site for donations. Anything from Ziploc bags to diving equipment. A group of women has been traveling to Puerto Rico to drop off everything. A Virginia Beach high schooler went on a trip with her mom and says what she saw was upsetting.
So instead of just sitting at home like thinking, wow, it's just, this is so terrible, like what can we do? Like we're actually like stepping forward and we're actually helping out and we're actually doing something about it.
For the next few days, the group will deliver everything they have, and then they plan to come back and do it again.
In the weather where you live tonight, things are pretty quiet.
That's right. Feeling like fall outside? Let's go to meteorologist Raquel Nakora.
Thank you. Well, for this evening, we're looking nice and quiet. Along with the tropics, it's been a very active season, especially in September with Harvey, Irma, and Maria. At this time, though, we're not tracking any kind of disturbances, which is good news. You can see San Juan right in the middle of your screen there, finally catching a break, not seeing any significant rainfall, and that's good news. That's going to help the relief efforts. Here at home, we are looking nice and dry. We still have an area of high pressure to our northeast, keeping those skies nice and clear and the precipitation well away. You can see towards Pacific Northwest. Well, it's a different story. They are dealing with some snow in the Rockies. Some areas may see up to a foot of snow or more for tonight, but at least it's good timing. You can see from Montana there, the area that's seeing most of the snowfall for tonight, that's just really deep red towards the north and east. That's indicating very dry conditions, exceptional drought conditions. Here at home, it has been abnormally dry, as indicated in yellow, but at least we're not experiencing that abnormally dry conditions around central Virginia. It's just the grass has been a little dry, a little crunchy at times. However, I do have some changes for the 7-day forecast that we'll talk about. Meanwhile, we have that area of high pressure, again, keeping us nice and clear and quiet. Not a single drop of rain, not a cloud in the sky, and temperatures right now in those mid-50s. Currently at 56 degrees for Richmond, 48 degrees for Petersburg, 48 degrees for Emporia. Relative humidity has risen, and that's with the temperatures falling and just kind of nearing those dew point temperatures. which is usually the case. Tonight's lows dropping down to the 50s. We're actually going to reach a low of 50 degrees for tonight in Richmond. And then by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, warming up to 58 degrees. It'll still feel rather crisp. For 10 o'clock, reaching 67 degrees, making our way up to those low 70s around noon. Not quite reaching our high up until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we'll reach our high of 76 degrees, looking pleasant. Winds coming in from the east, ranging from 5 to 10 miles per hour. Once that high pressure system moves offshore, you can see it right behind me. This is going to allow some of that warm air to return to the region ahead of one of the cold fronts that are going to be approaching the region. It is not going to cross through the Commonwealth, though, but it will be responsible for a few clouds to develop for Friday and to Saturday. But if you're hoping to see some of that rainfall, though, you may have to look up to next week, Sunday and Monday. We'll start to see some Gulf Coast moisture make its way into the region, and this will allow some showers to finally return to Virginia. Don't forget to tune in to Good Morning Richmond tomorrow morning. We'll have the latest on the news and weather where you live, starting bright and early at 4:30 in the morning.
What is the difference between response and recovery? Virginia Tech's about to find out. Hear from Justin Fuente when 8 News returns. 8 Sports is next.
8 Sports is sponsored by the Haley Automotive Group.
Welcome back. This is the Haley 8 Sports Report. The Washington Redskins are finishing up their Monday night football game in Kansas City. They currently trail 20-17, but have the ball in the fourth quarter, and we will update you with the final score and video tomorrow on Good Morning Richmond. Now on to college football, where Virginia Tech is trying to recover, and Virginia is back from its bye week. The Hoos are home again for the 4th time in its first 5 games. Their opponent is Duke after they come off a bye week, and before that, an impressive double-digit win on that blue turf at Boise State. This week, again, Duke for a noon kick. The Blue Devils just lost to Miami, and it wasn't close. Here's how Virginia feels after the bye week.
I think we've used it the best way that we can. It's always a challenge if you have momentum to not have a game and then to rekindle that before the next game. So. But all signs at this point seem like the players and the team are still gaining momentum and anxious to play.
It gets us ahead of the game. You know, we can study more film. We had a chance to watch them play another game while we had time off, and it's just, you know, just understanding what they like to do and how they like to attack defenses.
The Virginia Tech Hokies are trying to pick themselves up off the canvas after a 31-17 home loss to Clemson Saturday night. This week they hit the road to play at Boston College. The Eagles are no fun to play at all, with a hard-hitting defense that could give the Hokies fits after a bruising loss to the Tigers.
When you're faced with adversity or outcomes that you don't particularly want or didn't aspire to, you know, you have two options. You can react and go the wrong way, or you can respond to the situation. And, you know, hopefully we'll have a great week of prep and do a great job responding.
And that is it for sports. Again, Redskins highlights tomorrow on Good Morning Richmond. I'm Mitch Carr. That's it.
No gal as true as my sweet Sioux City Sue.
This music man in Virginia is living by. 99 years old. His story after the break. Raquel?
Going to break down your 7-day forecast. A warm trend is on the way, along with some rainfall. How's that going to impact you this weekend? I'll have the answer coming up right after this break.
There ain't no gal as true as my sweet Sioux City Sue.
Music has no age, and that's especially true for this Virginia man. This is Arthur Bell. He just turned 99 years old. As you see, he still plays and sings. When he was 10 years old, he taught himself how to play the guitar, the ukulele, the piano. He says music is his therapy.
It's just beautiful. I mean, it's all a work of art. And it's something that's embedded in you. It's almost like humor. You can be in tough situations and you put some humor into it and you sort of forget.
That's a good outlook. Well, if you wanted the secret to a long life, maybe music is the key. Raquel?
Well, hitting the right notes Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with that stretch of sunshine. Temperatures beginning to warm up, though, and that's with the high pressure system beginning to move offshore. This is going to allow some of that warm air to kind of trickle in back into the region. So we're starting off at 76 degrees for Tuesday. By Thursday, warming up to a high of 85 degrees. Those overnight lows, though, will get you it is a little bit bone chilling there. For Friday and Saturday, a few clouds will develop. Sunday and Monday of next week, this is when we're going to get that much needed rainfall. Temperatures warming up to low 80s and upper 70s, but at least tomorrow's going to feel more like fall.
All right, looking good.
All right, we got a Redskins update. Dustin Hopkins just kicked a 40-yard field goal. Right now it's 20-20. 40 seconds left to go in the game. It looks like they might be headed for overtime unless the Chiefs can do something after the kickoff and end up, taking the ball down and getting in field goal range.
Highlights tomorrow on Good Morning Richmond at 4:30 a.m.
That's right. We will wrap up the show so you can go watch the end if you want to. Thanks for joining us for 8 News at 11.
Jimmy Kimmel is next. Good night. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.